Schopenhauer had zero tolerance for comforting illusions. For him, life was not a gift but a disguised condemnation. We did not ask to be born, yet here we are, thrown into an existence marked by suffering, insatiable desire, and the certainty that, in the end, everything fades into nothingness. There is no cosmic purpose, no written destiny that justifies the pain. There is only a blind force that pushes us to exist and makes us stumble, again and again, against the same disappointing reality. To live is to suffer. From his vision of the world as an absurd game to his brutality in describing human relationships, Schopenhauer left no room for naive optimism. His philosophy does not seek to console but to confront us with the truth, with the coldness of one who has seen too much. He reminds us that pleasure is fleeting, that happiness is nothing more than the pause between two miseries, and that, deep down, everything we do is merely an attempt to distract ourselves from an unbearable reality. Yet he did not sink into absolute nihilism. If life is a mistake, then the real challenge is learning to endure it with dignity. Few philosophers have been as mercilessly honest as he was. He did not aim to save us but to shake us, to tear the blindfold from our eyes and show us that suffering is the only constant. And yet, in his darkness, there is a strange lucidity. Perhaps because, by accepting that life is a trap with no way out, it becomes easier to walk through it without ridiculous expectations. After all, if the world is a hostile place, the only thing left to do is learn to navigate it intelligently. Schopenhauer's first lesson is simple and brutal: to live is to suffer. Not as a metaphor, not as poetic exaggeration, but as an inescapable reality. From the moment we are born, we are condemned to experience pain, frustration, and disappointment. Existence is an endless cycle of desires that are never fully satisfied, of needs that reappear just when we thought we had resolved them. And the more aware we are of this, the more unbearable life becomes. Life swings, like a pendulum, between pain and boredom, he wrote in The World as Will and Representation. If we are not suffering from what we lack, we are bored with what we already have. There is no middle ground, no rest. People chase goals, believing that happiness lies on the other side of the finish line, but when they get there, they only discover a new void. Even the most intense pleasure is ephemeral and leaves behind a trail of dissatisfaction. We want something, we get it, we get used to it, and then we desire something else. And so it continues until death. The most desperate realization is that there is no escape. Suffering is not an anomaly of life, it is its essence. We can disguise it with entertainment, with distractions, with self-help philosophies that tell us everything depends on our attitude, but in the end, Schopenhauer saw the truth clearly: pain is not an accident of existence, but its fundamental condition. And all we can really do is learn to tolerate it. Schopenhauer's second lesson is even more devastating: happiness is an illusion. Not because it is unattainable, but because it is designed to be fleeting. No matter how much we achieve, how much we accumulate, or how pleasurable our moments of joy may be, they will always vanish like smoke. We cling to the idea that happiness is a state we can reach and remain in, but Schopenhauer warns us that this is a childish fantasy. In The World as Will and Representation, he made it clear that desire is the source of all dissatisfaction. We want and suffer. We obtain and grow bored. We are never truly satisfied because our nature forces us to want more, and when we get what we wanted, the excitement quickly dissolves, leaving us in a state of indifference, ready to seek a new goal that will give us back a sense of purpose. This is how we spend our lives, jumping from one longing to another, convinced that next time we will find that permanent satisfaction that, in reality, never existed. Even those who seem to have achieved everything end up trapped in this cycle: the millionaire who no longer knows what to buy, the artist who fears they have reached their peak, the lover who realizes that passion fades over time. Happiness is a mirage that recedes as soon as we believe we have reached it. The only constant is the emptiness it leaves behind. Schopenhauer's third lesson is that love is nothing more than a biological trap. There is nothing sublime in passion, nothing sacred in desire, nothing eternal in feelings. What we call love is merely a mechanism of nature to ensure the reproduction of the species, an irrational force that dominates us without our realizing its true purpose. We believe we fall in love because we find someone special, someone unique, someone meant for us. But what really happens is that the will to live, that blind and impersonal force, uses us as instruments to perpetuate itself. In the metaphysics of sexual love, Schopenhauer explained that love is a powerful illusion designed to make us believe we are choosing when, in reality, we are chosen by biology. We are attracted to certain people because, unknowingly, we seek traits that maximize the probability of strong and healthy offspring. No matter how much we idealize romance, in the end, everything comes down to an instinct disguised as deep emotion. And once its purpose has been fulfilled, desire fades, passion turns into habit, and what once seemed like a magical union reveals itself for what it really is, an impulse that has completed its function and no longer has a reason to exist. The irony is that we keep falling into the same trap, convinced that this time it will be different, that we have found something authentic and eternal. But Schopenhauer warns us, love is nothing more than a cruel joke of nature, a deception that keeps us moving, that makes us believe in the possibility of happiness only to snatch it away later. Schopenhauer teaches us that life has no purpose, that the will keeps us trapped in a cycle of suffering, and that even intelligence is a curse. And yet, despite everything, we are still here. We know that happiness is a mirage, that love is a lie, that society rewards mediocrity, and that the only certainty is death. And still, we keep breathing, keep thinking, keep moving forward. Why? Schopenhauer does not offer comforting answers, but in his brutality, there is a kind of clarity. If the world is a hostile place, the only option is to accept it without false hopes. Not because that makes it less painful, but because it allows us to walk with our eyes open, free from delusions and empty promises. There is no ultimate purpose, but that does not mean we cannot find moments of calm, of lucidity, even of beauty. Perhaps the only possible rebellion is learning to endure existence with dignity, without expecting anything from it and yet continuing forward. Not because there is a great reward at the end, but because, somehow, we have learned to resist. Life is a cruel joke. But who says we can't laugh at it too?